My predictions for the 2023 season. You read the title, you know why you're here, I know why you're here. So I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's get right into it. Starting from the bottom, in 21st place, and we'll get to that later why it's 21st and not 20th, we have Logan Sargent. He's in the worst car, and he's very young and in his rookie season, and I don't care if he's any good. He won't be as good as Alex Albon right out the gate, and that's all that will matter. Well, we started from the bottom, now we're here. 20th place. Alex Albon is going to absolutely dominate his teammate by scoring points twice, which will still be a single-digit points total. I think Albon is great, but the car he's in is a dog turd, and with the leadership in flux at Williams, I feel like their pace deficit to the other cars is only going to grow. In 19th place, we've got Yuki Tsunoda. Everyone's favorite Japanese firecracker is going to once again underperform in a car that's already underperforming. If Albon was in an AlphaTauri, he would do a lot better than Yuki, but he's in a Williams, so even with Yuki's poor performances, he's going to beat Albon by a healthy margin. Coming up in 18th place, we're going to see Zhou Guanyu with another season filled with solid performances. Nothing impressive, but nothing disappointing. He's going to be plagued by reliability issues again, but when he does finish, Zhou is likely going to put that car exactly where it deserves to be every race, ever so slightly ahead of the Williams. Next, we have 17th place, which is going to be populated by the Jay Leno of F1 drivers, Nico Hülkenberg. Haas is going to come strong out of the gates, and Magnussen is going to get some solid points finishes while Hulk is still finding his legs, but after a few races, Nico and Kevin will be neck and neck, but it won't matter because neither of them is going to be scoring any points. I believe Haas is not going to develop their car and will start focusing on next season like they have a propensity to do, and it won't matter if Nico finishes ahead of Kevin in every race in the second half of the season because neither of them will be scoring points. So coming up in 16th place, I believe it will be Kevin Magnussen. He's going to score some good points early on, but then will lack the car underneath him to do anything with it. Hülkenberg will outperform him in the latter half of the season, I'm thinking, but again, it won't matter because both of them will be in the bottom 10, and you don't get points for finishing ahead of your teammate when you're both out of the points. Lance Stroll will take a comfortable 15th place once again. The Aston Martin car will be surprisingly good in the hands of Fernando Alonso, but it will be less than mediocre in Lance's moderately capable hands. I do believe Lance will have at least one fully avoidable and totally his fault crash that will ruin a race that he would have finished near the podium in, and nobody will be surprised. By the end of the season, it will be clear that he should lose his seat, but he won't. Nick De Vries will be debuting with some impressive performances, placing his AlphaTauri ahead of both the Haas cars and the surprisingly performant Aston by the end of the season. He might have a miracle result or two, but for the most part, he'll keep squeaking out points one or two at a time consistently throughout the season, and that slow burn will place him in a position that the car probably doesn't deserve to be in. Valtteri Bottas won't get the benefits of being hot out the gates like he was in 2022, primarily because Alfa Romeo will still be a turd. He'll wring a lot more out of the car than his teammate, but there will only be so much he can do with the machinery that he's given. In my opinion, 13th place will seem downright reasonable for him by the end of the season. So you've probably been wondering why there are 21 spots on this list, and now I'm finally going to reveal why. In 12th place, I'm putting Daniel Ricciardo. I can feel it in my bones. There will be a weird situation in which Max can't or won't race, and I think Danny is going to take his seat and win the race. And suddenly everyone will be going on and on about how he's back, he should be lead driver, etc. But because Max wasn't in the race, we'll never really know if he won because he was the best driver in the best car, or if it was because the one guy who could absolutely dominate him in a Red Bull wasn't there. Either way, he'll get a bunch of points, and everybody who gave up on him will claim they always believed in him. Now it's time for 11th place, and we've got our boy Oscar Piastri. I'm sure he'll be great one day, but it's his first season in F1, and he's going to perform better than your average rookie, but still not better than Lando. Norris has a knack for driving the McLaren, which is notoriously hard to drive. It'll get tighter between the two of them as the season goes on, but by the end of the season, there will be no catching up for Oscar, as Lando will dominate him in the first few races. I'm going to do 9th and 10th together because it will be really tight. I'm placing both of the Alpine boys here. And while it pains me to say this, I think Ocon is going to come out on top. Gasly is a solid driver, but he's coming off a year that wasn't so hot, and Esteban not only went toe-to-toe with Alonso last season, he beat him. Yes, I know reliability factors into that, but the fact remains that Esteban Ocon beat Fernando Alonso in equal machinery. And he also has a ton of experience and comfort within the team at Alpine, so I see him beating Gasly in a very tight battle. As for their relationship, I see it starting off amicable and professional, but there will come a time when Gasly makes a mistake, which Ocon takes personally, and in typical Esteban style, he will then become unreasonably aggressive towards his teammate. Gasly won't take this lying down, and they will be in a full-on blood feud by the end of the season. 8th place, I believe, will be Lando Norris. He will be quite firmly in the 4th best car, and his performances in it will be impressive, but there won't be much he can do to overcome the obvious deficits of the McLaren. In 7th, I've got Fernando Alonso. Like he did in 2012, he will outperform the mediocre equipment he is given. He will have a few miracle results that will put him in a position to beat Lando by the end of the season, but over the course of the whole season, it will seem like Lando had a better, more consistent season. I just see Alonso squeaking it out by a couple points. In 6th place, I've got Carlos Sainz. I just don't see Ferrari being in the top 2, and I certainly don't see him beating Charles Leclerc. It's going to be a rough year for Ferrari fans, but then again, every year is a rough year for Ferrari fans. In 5th, we've got Sergio Perez. The Red Bull will very likely be the best car this season, but I just don't see Checo going toe-to-toe with any of the truly great drivers. He's a solid number 2 for Red Bull, but after his 5th place finish and the miracle Danny pulls in the one race he gets to fill in for Max, it'll be looking like Checo's seat is in jeopardy. Coming up 4th, we've got Charles Leclerc. I love him, I think he's great, but with the leadership change in Ferrari, things will be in turmoil, and we'll get to watch another season of classic Ferrari cock-ups. Their car will be a solid 3rd best now that Mercedes has their shit together, and he will only manage to outperform Checo. In 3rd, we've got Lewis Hamilton. This is the season where I will finally become a Lewis fan, because I only like has-beens. And after Lewis goes his 3rd season without a WDC and being beaten by his teammate, I will be fully on board to root for Hammy Boy. With Seb gone from the grid, all the old guys who see themselves in the washed-up former world champion will finally have Lewis to latch onto for their feelies whenever he does well. And he will do well this season, scoring 3rd overall, but that's only good by everyone else's standards, not his own, and seeing the disappointment on his face will finally win me over. Coming up 2nd place, we've got George Russell. I can't stand George. He's arrogant, cringe, whiny, and fake humble, which is precisely why I think he's WDC material. He's going to get a championship, I'm sure of it, but it won't be this season. I'm not even sure it will be close, but Mercedes will be the only true challenger to Red Bull this season. Of that, I am sure. So finally, and obviously, we've got Max with his 3rd WDC. And this time, there will be absolutely no questioning that Max earned it. There will be no asterisk this time, it will just be a solid Max victory, and it won't be exciting. He'll have it locked in 3 races before the end of the season, and he'll benefit from Checo being a subservient number 2 driver, with Danny's performance looming over his head to ensure compliance when they give team orders. Red Bull will spend the entire season claiming they don't play favorites, but they'll have a Mark Webber front wing moment that proves they definitely do favor Max, and Horner will blame it on limited resources due to the cost cap. Also, I bet Red Bull will have a publicity stunt where their whole team is eating bologna sandwiches as a nod to the whole catering cost cap fiasco. The nice thing about doing these lists is that at the end of the year, I can go through this and see how my predictions held up, which will be fun during the off season when there's basically nothing happening. Subscribe so you can catch that.